I was the last person in the world you would ever thought would be at the Olympics. And, for me, growing up the way I did, where I did, life was not an easy situation. Life wasn't always fun. And we're going to have a short amount of time today, so I'm going to tell you a story, and hopefully it kind of blows you away a little bit, because life is what life throws at you. And it's not where you start, it's where you go and where you end up through the whole process of getting engaged in everything you do. 3 years before I beat Carell, and he threw me on my head 3 times. He broke my neck in 2 places in the only match that I'd ever wrestled him before. So walking out there, the odds of me beating him were 2,001. But the way I look at life is the opportunity is there. It's not a matter of what you've done along the way. It's what you're going to continue to do, develop, and make your life special. As I went through school, some of my classmates would tease me, bullying, that type of stuff, because it would take me a lot longer than them to take a test or to read a question or whatever it was. And so I really struggled. And as I went through into junior high, into high school, I worked hard, and I had a brother. His name was Reynolds, and he was 1 year older. And my brother Reynolds used to torment me every day. He would go out there and he'd tease me. You'll never beat me. I'll always be better than you. And I couldn't beat him in wrestling until the end of my junior year. And so for 17 years of my life, I'd kind of been tormented, and so it made me kind of gritty and tough and, get a little bit more determination than probably I would have if I hadn't been through that adversity. So that character made me stronger. And as I went in, I had a teacher, and his name was Bill Hopes, who was my special ed teacher. And he said, Rulon, he said, you're special. He said, you have a gift. He says, if you come and you work hard every day, you are going to be successful, because you have that discipline. And if you continue to do that, you're going to succeed at life. And for me, at that point, I'm thinking, succeed at life. I just want to make it through the day and not get killed on the farm or something, or, not, lose to my brother anymore. I was sick and tired of losing to my brother. And so finally, I went in, and my senior year, I won state. I had an opportunity to get a scholarship to 2 different junior colleges. That was nothing special. And I went in and I sat down, and the advisor said, Rulon, if you go to college, you'll flunk, you'll fail. So don't even go to college, just be a farmhand. That's your job. That's what you should do. And I'm like, no, I want to go to college. And I went home and I told my mom what was told to me. And my mom was one of the people that really were influential, because she went back to nursing school when she was 50. And she went back and she worked until she was 72 years old as a nurse to help the family succeed. So my mom showed me grit and determination. I remember sitting there, she called the high school advisor, and it was kind of fun, because she called up, she goes, how dare you tell my son what he can and cannot do? The only person that's going to realize his potential is him. You do not have the right to limit his potential. He will determine his destiny. And as I left for college, my mom said, Rulon, keep your head out of the clouds. Keep your feet on the ground. Remember who you are and where you're from and what you believe in. It was so cool that Nebraska, Students for Disabilities, Reading for the Blind, I had so much help. Nebraska would not let me fail as long as I continued to do my best. And I had choices to go through at college and everything else. Some of the people went to college to party. I realized with that scholarship, I had one opportunity to get my schooling paid for. And I would not miss one class. I would not drink one drink. I would not do anything that would help me lose my focus. And so I stayed there every day. One night I had an opportunity to study for my anatomy bone exam, 207 bones, or meet Garth Brooks. I'm like, man, Garth, it would be kind of fun. And what am I going to do? I got 192 points out of 200 on that exam. Passed it. 2 years later, I met Garth. 4 years later, Garth did the foreword on my book. And I've known him for now 30 years. And so I went back to school for 2 more years. And what kind of stunk is I went to Nebraska to become a teacher. But when I transferred from Rick's College out of 64 credit, Nebraska accepted 16 of them. As a junior, I started as a freshman. And I went in and I was quite upset when I figured this out. And I talked to the advisor. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that when I transferred here? They're like, why didn't you ask? I'm like, oh, I was pissed. And I'm like, what? How? This is your job. Well, but you never asked. I'm like, so ask and you will receive. If you don't ask, you're not going to receive. So make sure You guys go there with a focus, education. You guys are here. Do those things that are required of you and make sure you don't waste your time. For me, I turned that negative energy that people told me. I don't know if you saw at the end of the match, I got up and I threw something. What I threw was all the crap that people told me all the way through my life I couldn't do. And I threw it right back in their face and said, look at what I've now done. And for me, I don't know if you guys have those voices that motivate you. You got to say, hey, you got to work hard. You got to dig, work, fight. All those things that drove me. And so I went out there and I enlisted all that support. My expectation isn't to win medals. My expectation wasn't to win medals. My expectation was to learn about who I was and my ability and the opportunity to reach my next level. And that's what drove me to work so hard on a daily basis. But it was the best loss I ever had because it made me realize, yeah, you're good. You're not that good. You got a lot to learn. And I left and I grabbed a table and I put everything on the table. I said, leave your ego, your attitude, your cockiness. You got to leave all that stuff behind. It's time to move on to the next level. But what made me special was the work, the time, everything else. One of our practices, our coach was kind of crazy this way, but it was called a grind match. And a grind match, it was for us, I remember the first time he talked about it, he's like, okay, we're going to wrestle 2 hours straight. No time, no air break. You can't go get a drink of water. I'm like, 2 hours? That's not possible. I remember the first 9 minutes, it's like, okay, that's a regulation match. Then it's 15 and 30 and 40. You get to an hour, you're like, this is nuts. We got to hour and 15, hour and 30. Hour and 30, the body starts going numb. So you don't feel anything, so you're like, heck yeah, I don't feel anything, so get going. And at 2 hours, you're going faster than you were at the beginning. And what was so cool is you start seeing all these mental barriers that you put in front of yourself, and you start shredding, and you get to the other side, you start seeing other things you've never seen before, potential you never had before.